Well, hello everyone. I bring you yet another stimulating edition of Palest Drew Talks About Things Live. Today our focus is going to be on the new MP45 Bumblebee version 2.0. But of course we can't have a discussion about him without inevitably bringing up the version 1.0 version of him. So we'll do a little compare and contrast. Take Spike and stick him on here somewhere. Is his name right? Spike? I don't know. It's a witwiki of some sort. Does not want to stand. Launch car. I have patience. Hey, look at that. You're not going to stay focused on things like that? I have to wonder what the camera's focusing on sometimes. What is it focused on? We'll just manually focus it. There we go. Alright. Alright, Shark is here. Fanatic Dread 100. Hello. Blank Slate Studios. Lead Blast. Well, I generally try to do the one I just did a stop motion of because sometimes there's more to discuss than the stop motion really conveys. I mean, all the steps are there in the right order. But he is a fiddly little figure. Let's see. While he's still a robot, we can talk about how he comes with Spike, and he comes with this little gun. There it is. He comes with some alternative faces. Here's one that's kind of a cheerful, let's see if we can get this, cheerful sort of mouth open laughing face. I don't feel like putting them on, so I'm not going to. And here's like a really heavy duty laughing face. He's a pretty goofy looking figure because in the comic he was pretty goofy looking. He comes with this extremely mysterious sticker sheet. I have no idea. I don't think the instructions even mention where those stickers would go. And for car mode, he has this little thing you can clip onto his bumper that's an I Love New York license plate. He, of course, comes with the little character card. Looks way cooler than the toy. And there's the reverse. You can see here, this strange symbol is a 2. I don't feel like translating that. So we'll get to transforming. Someone asked which one is better in everybody's opinion. I can give my opinion verbally. I kind of like how elegant this one is, but as you can see, he does have a backpack. And he also does have kind of foot issues. In his case, they have the whole wheel well here. Here they split off the wheel well and tilted the whole thing to give him a flatter foot. But it does mean he has like this kibble on the back of his foot. It is what it is. So set him aside for a minute. We'll just do a quick transformation of this guy. Close his little hands. Gonna lift up the shoulders and rotate them like so. And then I like to take the arms, and there's a butterfly joint here, which is nice. You can see that. And it also can rotate up. So he really does have like the targeted articulation for the modern MPs. I mean, he can do stuff. You've seen the pictures of him doing the Weaver stance with his gun. And all right. So we take apart this backpack. There's not much to say here. It's in the video. But there's like this spare tire detail. It's just there as an ornament. And it's got this off-center hinge or rotation so that when you put it in, it's off-center. It's leaving space on this side and occupying this side. You collapse the whole thing in, and then it clicks up a notch, and the whole thing just kind of parks like that. So you can see there it's occupying one side and not the other. That's to leave room for Spike's legs, so you can stick Spike inside the cockpit, which I've actually never tried, so I guess I'll try it for this video. Now that we got that out of the way, we can flip this down. It just tucks up there. It's a shame too, because he has like a really good waist articulation without it. So you can see here he's got, you know, like a 360 waist articulation, but once you put this thing in place, he's really only got like a sort of pseudo waist articulation, just a few degrees to either side. So it's kind of weird. We'll just get that out of the way and then check our comments. Yeah, I mean, this one definitely has the cartoon look, you know? It's got a little bit of chunk to the back of him, including the feet, but, I mean, they did nail the cartoon look. That new movie, one of those new movie Bumblebees looks spot on. It's a shame they rushed it, because the MPM series was movie masterpieces based on established designs, like the original Bumblebee or the original Barricade, and then they decided, oh, we better, you know, Bumblebee movie's about to come out, we better make a, you know, Volkswagen Bug Bumblebee just like the movie. And I don't think the movie had finalized the details of that Bumblebee, and next thing you know, he's got door wings, and in the movie he doesn't have door wings. So they kind of rushed it, I think. I mean, it's a nice figure, but it doesn't look like the movie design. They failed because they couldn't be patient and wait. Getting this out is a little tricky because there's like a flatter area. There's a ridge there, and so you have to kind of fight it off the ridge. So I just like to get my thumb on both of them and pop them. But you can get them up like that, and then it's free, and that can move out of the way. We can rotate this whole upper body around. So now we get this kibble hanging off the back of his hips and this kibble hanging off the back of his body. But now it's nice and out of the way. Now for these wheels, in the instructions, they're telling you to, there's like a, I'll pull one out just so we can see it, but this clips and separates. But there's like this, this wheel flap. So I'll just get a good look at it here. So you can see there it can flip down and then it can flip up just slightly. And frankly, I find with it still flipped up, unlike the instructions, it actually, you can clear the shoulder a little easier. There is a little bit of a rub there, and you can articulate the shoulder to kind of wrestle it through, but I don't know, your mileage may vary, but in the stop motion video, I show those collapsing as a separate step once they're inserted in there. But it's a little bit of a clearance issue. The wheel doesn't really clear that part of the cockpit, and it's got some issues. But we'll do this side too. But it's neat how they take these big cartoony wheels and actually hide them away. Now you can't put the wheels, they can't go straight to their home position, unfortunately. So what we have to do is what I call parking, but you have to park it and then articulate something else and then come back to it. But once you park that, then you can move this cockpit back a little bit, and then you can finish putting these down, which you have to do to continue putting the cockpit back. So it's kind of a bummer. Really, before we do any of that, though, I should put the head away and the arms. But the head just kind of goes upside down in there. Not too bad. Something must have rubbed, or there's just a manufacturing defect with the factory. But there's like a little bit of a spot there. You can see it on the thumbnail picture for the figure, for that matter. But we'll just put these back where they were, like this, and then these pegged together. And then this whole thing flips over like that. And it helps to have these up. They sit in two positions. This is the final position when it's transformed, and this is the position it should be in to try to get it all together. And these two flaps flip over. These become part of the roof of the car. They wanted to create this hole so that they could collapse this in, and so the arm flaps actually fill in that hole. But now we can get ready to flip this up. And it won't go all the way until you finish putting the wheels down. So you have to kind of like dance the wheels. So the wheels move a little, and then the thing moves a little, and then the wheels move a little. Getting this past here is a little bit of a pain in the ass, but you just kind of sneak it past, and there's a little rubbing that occurs. You just kind of push on everything. And then when you want it to get into the final position, the arms have to come back a little bit like that. And then it fills in the roof gap, and then it's a matter of getting this to clip in properly. But there's like a tab here that clips behind the wheel well. There's the tab hole. And then there's a same thing on the other side, and you just kind of get them both in. And then you line everything up. And the whole thing doesn't quite seat as well as you would hope. So the fit and finish is a little bit off. It's not the end of the world for such a small figure, but I don't know. I kind of expect more from Takara. So consequently, when you have it in bug mode, Volkswagen mode, it's, you know, a little gappy. It ain't perfect. It's interesting here, the window, you can see this is like the bottom of the fake front window. And then there's a gap left here. And this thing just fits right into that gap. So you can see like this edge ends up on top of that elbow, that corner. But then the window itself ends up under that. So it's pretty well planned out. It really tucks in there. You flip these out, and then you can lock the back of the vehicle. Once you get this locked, it's a little better. You have to just make sure you lock it properly. But there's like little grooves and tabs that fit in. Then we come to a surprisingly complicated legs. I really like the way they pack these up. It's pretty clever. Because you open this up and you rotate this, and you flip the part of the thigh. I'm not watching my screen enough so you can see what I'm talking about, but of course I did an entire stop motion video on it, so not too bad. You can flip up the thigh bits because there's a little space for them there. And then you can collapse the leg, and it's interesting, the leg doesn't collapse straight in. You end up with this long part of his thigh at kind of an angle, so they're really trying to conserve space there. Plus they're leaving room for that figure, you know, such as it is. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. And collapse it and flip that up. So now the legs are done. Now we have to do the feet. The feet need to stage in a couple of different positions in order to do them cleanly. But we start with this positions because it frees up room for the wheels to be articulated. So the first thing we're doing is just kind of flipping his feet back. We can unfold the door, the windows, and also just get the doors out of the way. There's actually a little sliding joint right there. You can see it stick out. So there's two slides. And once it's all the way slid open like that, then it won't slide back in until it's back in that position. And the door has like a slide so that it can overextend. It can pretend to have a proper door hinge. And in this position, we've got just enough room for the wheel to pop down so that we can rotate the part of the wheel well around. And now we're ready to rotate the wheel in this position, sideways. And then you can flip the bumper, or you can flip it down. So it's interesting how they sliced it across here so that the foot would be a flatter foot. And then you add the extra wheel well. It's just attached to the wheel like that. And then once you're in this position, the whole thing just flips down, if it'll let you. There we go. So we have that one done. I'll just fiddle with this one while I glance at my comments. Am I going to get Toy World's Freedom Leader? I'm not sure which one that is. I know Toy World did the Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime. That might be what you're talking about. And there's also the recently announced Toy World where it's like the Last Night Optimus Prime. I guess I'd have to say that either way, I have no particular intention to get either of those. So I guess the answer was no either way. I'm perfectly satisfied with Challenger being the Last Night Optimus Prime, and I'm kind of waiting. I think in the MPM line it would make sense for them to do that movie Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime, so I'm gonna hold off and see if we get an official. I mean, I'm sure Toy World does a fine job with it, and you know, Takara's not perfect, but I don't know, I kind of like to get the official releases. So that's how it's all supposed to fit like this. And then I mentioned that you can stick Spike inside the cockpit, so let's give that a try. They seem to think that his knees have to be bent a little bit, if I remember from the instructions. So there should be just... His arm just came off. That's annoying. Is it supposed to? Yeah, it's a little ball joint. Weird. It's like a clear... It's like this thing was molded from clear plastic, which is kind of surprising. But there's supposedly just enough room for him to hang out in the cockpit there. And I guess they're not lying. Maybe. His foot is kind of getting in the way. And that's the problem. I mean, the thing is hard enough to like tab together properly without having something else in the cockpit there, but we'll get it in. There we go. And so there it is. It's like the chibi sort of penny racer Bumblebee. For those of you that don't know, the original, it seemed like those original Minibot toys were based on penny racers, and they were wind-up cars, the kind that you pull back, and then and they would have like a little slot. You can even see it in this molding here. But it would have a slot where if you stuck a penny, that would be just heavy enough that when it zoomed off, it would do a wheelie. That's what penny racers were. And for some reason, the original mini Autobots were borrowed from some toy line that was trying to replicate the chibi look of the penny racers. So that's why it's a super deformed version of Bumblebee, because they're just making it exactly like the cartoon and the old toy. No, it's some odd engineering. I mean, they really went at it. You know, they wanted it to look like this kind of super deformed bug, and they wanted it to turn into a Bumblebee, like from the show, goofy looking and all. I've never done a live stream on this guy, so I may as well transform him so we can compare the two car modes. I just got to remember how to. I suppose I could watch my own video on it. This was always a wonky thing, because it's like an off-center hinge. So you can see there's like a hinge there. You have to kind of trick it around, and then you can flip it up. Not too bad. I don't know when this can flip around. I'll try to flip it around now. Now is the answer. And then, oh yeah, the arm's kind of attached to the. See, do I reverse it? Yeah. Yeah. So you have to kind of bring it down like that. Put the hand away, and then use this little bit of floof to fill in right there. And then the whole thing can flip up and fit under. It's a lot easier to transform than the original Bumblebee. And I actually have, and there was someone made like an oversized version of this. So you can get that pretty cheap if you want this design and you don't want to have to track down an actual It was like that. This was a really clever feature. You know, the feet. Well, I'll kind of show you the feet real quick because that's kind of cool. So the doors actually unpack, or they pack around the back of the feet, which is clever. Like some way to get rid of those flat panels. But as you can imagine, the feet leave a gap in the hood. So where's that fill? Where's that flat piece going to go? And they came up with this really clever mechanism. Let's see if we can capture it here. But it actually slides into the gap inside his lower waist area. So there's like a spot there for it to slide into. And so once it's folded down all the way, you can flip it out. But you can see it has that space. So it kind of eats the hood, which is kind of a clever... I always thought that was a pretty cool mechanism. And then we kind of collapse the legs. And these actually do tab in. You just have to know that they do and do it. Yeah, and then we can bring this whole thing down. And of course, this turns into a realistic Volkswagen Bug. Oh, yeah. And the wheels flip out. So you see like the super deformed Bug and the sort of realistic Bug. Although, I mean, I swear the hood on this is too long, and the thing actually would have benefited by not having the hood be that long. This doesn't really look like a Bug either when you think about it. This is almost like a Volkswagen Bug limousine. It's a little too long. I don't know why they... I could see this being redesigned to be proper proportions for a Bug, and I don't know why they didn't in the first place. There's a little bit of leftover blue tack on this wheel because it used to be the bottom of his foot. Anyway, those are those two Bugs. This actually comes off and has like a replacement piece that's like a license plate. I just leave it on so I don't lose the parts. We'll catch up on comments. Can I do a stop motion of Masterpiece Rhinox? Is there a Masterpiece Rhinox? Or are you just talking about Thrilling 30 Rhinox? Because, I mean, it's a good figure, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Yeah, Challenger, my main complaint about Challenger would be that the feet don't really have an ankle tilt. So the articulation isn't quite there, but the way they fold everything inside is just, brilliant. I can make the same complaint about Peru Kill. Like the articulation on Peru Kill isn't great. Stand there with a nice A stance, but he's not perfect. But the way he folds inside out is, mwah, very good. Yeah, MP44 has a pretty big backpack, but it's not the end of the world. From most angles, that backpack doesn't even look all that bad. It's only directly from the side, and they had to have something. They had to move some mass somewhere, because the MP Optimus Prime, trying to look like the cartoon Optimus Prime, of course, it has like a really tiny upper body and really big legs. So they have to like grow the legs and shrink the upper body somehow. So they transfer some of the mass to the legs, and then they Let's see if I can put this bumper on. I've never tried. Be like Neo and Morpheus. My eyes hurt. Never used them before. There we go. Well, that works. I love New York. Hello, People's Drug. Hardy har. Let's see. Right. I mean, I don't know if they intended the voice box. I mean, I thought about how I would redesign the backpack to be smaller, and it would be a little tricky because that whole voice box is like a big chunk behind the cab that fills in that whole cab area. So you kind of need that big box, and you may as well put a voice box in it while you're at it. But On the other hand, I can't help but think that if you didn't have the voice box, then it could have unfolded somehow, and the bumper that comes around behind could have flattened out a little better, and you would have had a flatter figure. Certainly, Transform Element and Magic Square figured out ways to do it. You keep asking me about stop motion on Masterpiece Rhinox, and I'm not aware of there being a Masterpiece Rhinox. There's a Generations Rhinox that's a retail Rhinox, but there is no Masterpiece Rhinox. So the answer is no. But if they ever do a Masterpiece Rhinox, I will do it. I will definitely shoot a video of that. I think they should do a Masterpiece Rhinox, but the Thrilling 30 Rhinox is pretty cool. I've thought about doing it, but I just always have other stuff to do. So maybe someday I'll do the 30th anniversary or the Generations Rhinox. Maybe so. Never say never, right? It's not a terrible figure. It's a cool figure. Yeah, is there a Masterpiece Rhinox? Because I have never seen one. You'll have to send me a link. I got one guy that always comes into my comments and asks me if I'm going to do, not these comments, live stream, but like there's someone that always shows up in my video comments. Then they'll be like, are you going to do, and they'll name a bunch of figures that haven't come out yet. Like, well, eventually, when those figures exist for people like me. So I want to get that blue tack off, but you can only really get blue tack with other blue tack. And I don't have any with me right now. I actually got a red paint pen to repaint that because it got like marred and rubbed off. It still doesn't look perfect, but it looks a lot better than it did. It's like they wanted to get rid of this little bit of trim, so they just hid it under his arm. Which is, a bit of a letdown. But this one's a little less kibbly than the new one. So he has that going for him at least. He's still got a backpack. It's just a little bit of a smoother backpack because it's only made out of one part. One big shell. A big shell they could have made smaller. Let's rescue. Look at him in there. His leg fell off. These little figures they come with seem awfully delicate, but I guess they're not too bad. They're just snapped together. I don't know. Almost don't see the point of having a figure quite that small. I suppose in a sense it's almost like an homage to the old, what are they called, Micronauts. Yeah, you know what opinions are like. But really lately, MP, 36 Sunstreaker was kind of like the vanguard of the new approach. I'm sorry, MP39 was Sunstreaker. Megatron, I guess, was... Megatron didn't have a backpack per se, but he had kind of an ugly back. And clearly Takara has decided that if they have to make a compromise, then they're going to compromise on the back. Which makes sense. But it's... you see companies like Unique Toys with Peru Kill and Challenger don't compromise on the back. Although, you know, maybe they're compromising in other places, like the articulation. But it can be done. So you know, all things being equal, I'd prefer if Takara was a little more clever about avoiding, you know, making the back of the figure look just as good as the front of the figure. But clearly they feel like they have to make some sort of compromise, and they're always going to kind of hide some of the ugliness in the back. It's just how they do it. They otherwise do a lot of really clever stuff. I mean, I enjoy... I still get the Takara figures, even though they're, you know, maybe not keeping up with some of the third parties for cleverness or elegant simplicity. But they're very puzzly. I like puzzly figures, and they have some interesting twists and turns, and they've always got pretty good fit and finish. I'm doing Black Arachnia this coming Sunday, and I gotta tell you, that's gonna be tricky. Because that thing is tiny, like this one. I mean, I guess no trickier than this one in the grand scheme of things, but those spider legs are gonna be really hard to manage. I think what I'm gonna do is just steal one of my kids' like braces rubber bands, one of those little tiny rubber bands, and I'll just rubber band the legs together and keep them under control. This can flip down, and then this can flip up some, and then the wheels can move, and then it can flip up more, and then I like to park the arms here because it gets them out of the way for the wheels in a minute. All right. I mean, it does all fit. It's all intentional. When I first saw the pictures of this, I just assumed they mistransformed it, and the whole idea was to have this curve of this part of the roof actually line up and cover the other part. But nope. They really do have like that much, I don't know, fat. It's like, it was almost a good idea. Like if the whole thing would collapse more completely, then, you know, well, maybe Wei Zhang will make one. Unfortunately, if they do make a knockoff of this, they're going to make it big because they can't help themselves. They got to make it oversized. Maybe it helps them skirt some law. Like if it's oversized, it's not quite the same thing. I don't know. But I think we can rely on them to make an oversized MP Bumblebee if they ever do it. But they're pretty clever. They might come up with some fixes. But I don't know. He reads really good from the front. I mean, he looks like Bumblebee from the cartoon, warts and all, goofy fat face and all, but you can see them compared here. I mean, I think frankly the new one does look better as Bumblebee. The other one, you know, what was this, 21? Way back in the day. Studio Series Sideswipe. Yeah, it's pretty good. A lot of those Studio Series figures rely heavily on just hiding most of the car as a backpack, which is kind of weak. Is there going to be an MPM Sideswipe? I feel like there is going to be. But what did they just announce recently? They're going to do Ratchet, and they're going to do Starscream. So Sideswipe, I guess, hasn't been announced yet, but they really should do an MPM Sideswipe and do them properly with that big backpack. I don't know, MPM Jazz even had a big backpack, so I guess we can't rely on Hasbro Takara to not have a backpack. Maybe I should hope that MPM Sideswipe is done by some other company, like DX9. Their Lahir is gorgeous. Gorgeous from the front, gorgeous from the back. Great figure. You know, the NPM line will surprise you because NPM3 was oh yeah, that's the original NPM Bumblebee. Yeah. I don't have that easy to get, but yeah, they Black Mamba or Wei Zhang, they do oversized stuff. I like the NPM Bumblebee, although it has one of those cardinal sins that bugs me usually, especially with like fans toys. But it has like a flimsy little linkage. There's like that little bar that separates the back and the front, and that seems like cheating sometimes. But they only do it once, whereas fans toys does it for every part. God, I hate fans toys. Wow. It's amazing how far behind the actual stream video is from what I've done. Just rest assured, everything you see me do happened like a minute ago. 30, 40 seconds ago. Of course, I don't know when you guys are actually commenting. Either I'm seeing them right away or I'm seeing them after a delay too. Who can say? I don't know much else to say. There's your MP Bumblebee. Versions 1 and 2. I think they intentionally made him look like he's like a little boy. He's got weird proportions. His arms aren't long enough for his legs. I guess that makes him more of a teenager. I mean, their target demographic back then when they were doing the cartoon were 11 to 13-year-olds, so it makes sense that his legs are way longer than they should be for an adult. I've never heard of Rodimus Primal. Is that a reviewer or something? Nobody's done a proper Devastator. I don't know. Toy World's Devastator looks really good, has its drawbacks. And then I got the Jinbao oversized Generation Toy Devastator, which I like the aesthetic of, but I'll admit it doesn't look like the cartoon Devastator, so Toy World does a better job of looking like the cartoon. But I kind of have a soft spot for the toys that look like, like this one's trying to look like a real Bumblebee, a reimagining of what he would look like. Compare like Sideswipe, MP Sideswipe to MP Sunstreaker. Is a good example, because back in MP Sideswipe day, they were doing more. Obviously a realistic vehicle mode is true for both, but the MP Sideswipe was like just kind of a reimagining of the Sideswipe character. It hit some of the notes, but it didn't try to look exactly like the cartoon, where by the time they got to MP Sunstreaker, they were making it look a lot more like exactly like the cartoon. Although that's a pretty clever figure. That's a lot of fun. Backpack and all. When Assaultus is done, MMC is going to be doing their Defensor. So they're not getting to Devastator yet. I like MMC, so in my estimation, they could do anything and it would be really good. Yeah, I don't know. Let me see if I can remember it straight. In the cartoon, which is what everyone tends to believe in, Rumble is red and Frenzy is blue. But when the original toys or the comic books or something, I can never remember. I'm inclined to believe that Rumble is whatever he was on the packaging of the toy. So maybe someone can tell me which way that is. But I can't remember. I think the cartoon got it backwards and the comic books and the toy were in alignment, or maybe the other way around. I just don't care. I tend to think of them just, they're Rumble and Frenzy. One of them's one of them's the other one. There, I just discussed it for 30 seconds. I don't have a 10-minute argument about that. Well, guys, I mean, I hate to go shorter than my target of an hour, but I don't really have anything left to discuss. We can discuss things further in the comments if you want to. If anyone has any final queries, questions, or comments, now is your chance. And now I have to wait for like a minute before you hear me say that. I'll just bring up a clock. There we go. So sometime around 6:44, you're going to hear me ask for final comments. Just 15 seconds left to go before you hear me say that. And then hear me talk about this. Here's an answer. Rumble is usually red, but I prefer him blue because his attacks are all earth-based with pile drivers or something. Yeah. Plus, Rumble is red is an easier mnemonic. R is R. Rumble is red. Fine with me. Don't care. By now, you've heard me ask for final comments, and I'm going to see if there are any. All right, well, we will be wrapping it up. Short and sweet this week. This Sunday, we will be doing Black Arachnia for stop motion. And then next Wednesday, we will have a discussion about Black Arachnia and anything else that comes up. Well, Fans Toys has announced a Masterpiece Soundwave, so I'm sure that'll be annoying and have unnecessarily complicated little flimsy, flippy, floppy linkages. You would think they couldn't fuck that up. I mean, screw that up because, you know, it's a box that turns into a boxy robot. But they'll think of a way. They'll think of a way to make it annoying. Well, especially around back, the MP12 Soundwave has some weird gaps when you look at it from the back. I think Assaultus is the Onslaught. And they try to come up with names that are just weird or, you know, distinct and that aren't trademarked. Because that's where they'd get into trouble if they actually called it Onslaught or Vortex. Yeah. Just what we need, a crazy complicated Soundwave. I really like the way that Takara one. That's back when Takara was doing the sort of reimagined instead of trying to get cartoon perfection. And I like the way they did it. They did a fine job with it. I like the little, there's like a little advanced mechanism. So you can pop a tape out and then you push a button on the back and it like springs the, you can put 3 tapes in at once, in other words. And so you can eject a tape and then you can push the button and it'll advance the tapes so you can eject the next tape and then you can push the button again and it'll advance that last tape all the way to the front so that you can eject that last tape. So you can do 3 tapes at once. Pretty clever. Yeah, the one company did call KOMPM Megatron Honey Badger. All right. I suppose I'm not quite as interested in the character study of things, so I'm glad someone's covering that kind of information for people that are interested. Mostly I'm fascinated by the toys and how they work. which is kind of why I don't care if Rumble is red or not. Ugh. I really don't like fans toys because I like interesting, complicated designs that will hold their position at every step of the transformation, which is a little selfish of me. But I just don't like something where it's like all floppy. You gotta just kind of move this out of the way let it dangle for a while, and just fans toys. Yeah, no doubt. All right, folks. Well, have a good evening, and you will see my next video on Sunday, if I don't die. Yeah, Fans Toys makes everything they touch annoying. Too true. Haven't really liked any of their designs. Closest I came to liking one of their designs was maybe their Coot was okay. Road King had some. It was amazing how the whole tractor trailer turns into a robot. I kind of like that, but it's got flippy floppy stupid stuff on it too. Oh yeah. My RC is also the Ocular Max RC, because that's a very cleverly designed figure that can stand the entire time you're transforming it. Whereas if you look at my Fans Toys Rouge video, I had to just lay it down and transform it while it's laying down. It's just a shame. All right, I will see you guys later. Have a good evening. Farewell. I never handled the Cyclonus. It's probably fiddly too.